Hi, I'm Giovanni Romano, and today we're going to be continuing chapter 24, which is our drag and draw project, right? So currently we have our box drawing view. This is our custom view, right? And we have it inherit from the view class, right? So, and then the other thing we've set up so far is our XML file, which is just going to connect the two together. Right, so as you can see, I have the app running and we have that connection, and right now it's pretty much just a blank canvas, right? So for the next step, we're going to be making our touch event, right? So the whole purpose of this project is basically we're going to make it so you can draw boxes on touch, right? So to be doing that, so one way would be kind of similar to your on-click listener. So you can set your on-touch listener with your view.onTouch listener. So it's kind of exactly the same way. But because we have our custom view, we can just override a function called onTouchEvent, and it's going to receive an instance of motionEvent, which describes the touch event, including its location and its action, and that's going to describe the stage of the event, right? So there's pretty much like 4 stages. So we have down, which is basically when you press down on the screen, that's down. When you lift up, it's going to be up, right? And then when you're moving, your finger's moving, and then when it's cancel, that means a parent view intercepts the touch event, right? So in our box drawing view, I'm going to start to override this function, right? So first I'm going to make our private tag, tag equals box, right? And now within our box drawing view class, I'm going to override function on touch event. I can just autofill that in. As you can see, it's got our motion event parameter. And so next what we're going to do is we're going to basically code it for each like event that I just described earlier, down and up and so on, right? So, and we're going to have it log like the point that you are on, right? So we're going to have our current point, right, which equals point f, and then event.x, event.y, and we have our action. All right. So when we have our event.action, right, motion, right, motion event dot action down, right, so when it's that, our action equals, and then we're just going to have a string action down, right? And this is basically what this is doing when we override this is we're just going to have a tag. At this point, we're just going to have a tag like telling you where it's pressed and what event is happening, right? And I'll be showing you on Logcat after what the final point is. So close that, motion event dot action, and we'll do action move. Right. And just we're going to do the same exact thing for each and every one, so bear with me. Action up. did down, action cancel. Right. Okay, so we have our, this is basically just going to say which action is which when we're pressed down. And now we're going to make a tag, right, our log that takes in the tag. And then it's going to tell us basically action at x equals, right, current dot x, comma, y equals, dot y, and we're going to return true. Right. Okay. Gonna have to import for point f in our log. Right, so we should. Right, so the problem was when you autocomplete, it actually inserts this question mark here, which means that event can be nullable. And what that means is, what these errors are saying is, because these can be null, you have to have some type of guard to make sure that they're not null. So when I remove this, it means I already know that these aren't going to be null values, so that should get rid of our error. Right, so I will start it again. Right, here we go, perfect. And so now that it's launched, I should be able to click, and as you can see down at this log, right, as I click down and move it around and then release, it's going to log these actions, right? So it has the coordinates that we were pressing on, and then also where we click down and pressed up. So if I just click, right, as you can see, it says action down at whatever the coordinate is, and then when I release, action up, and I can move around and so on and so forth. So that's the first problem, right? So currently this is only going to log the coordinates when touched. So now we want to make it so we can draw boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a box class, right? And this is just going to keep track of the data from more than one motion event, right? So what we're going to do is within this, I'm going to make a data class, box, and then we're going to have a value start, right, which is point f. Right, so that's the coordinate from where we start at. You're going to have to import here. Alt, enter. Ooh, yeah, just that works too. So now we're going to put in our parameters, right? So we have our var end points f equals start, val left, we're going to make this a float, and we're basically going to get equals math.min start dot x Right, so basically what happens is when we click down, right, that's going to be our start point, right, for the box, and as it's going to calculate the edges, the corners for each box, and that's going to help us define our box within the app, right? So I'm going to have to do this for the rest of the corners, right? So float get equals math.max start.x. So as I code this top value, right, you're going to notice that it's actually going to be the min, even though it's the top. And the reason for that is because in a lot of these coding languages, specifically like Java and Kotlin, which is a derivative of Java, you have our origin, which is going to be right at the top right here, right? So it's going to start here, and then down is positive and up is negative, right? So as we code this, that's why we're going to have our min value be the top. Y dot y. And almost done. Bottom. Right, so that's our data class. So, equal sign, right. Right, so those are just warnings, that don't have to worry about that. So basically when the user touches box drawing view, a new box is going to be created and it's going to be added to a list of existing boxes, right? So if we go back in the box drawing view, right, we're going to use our new box to start our drawing state. So I'm going to add some variables. Basically, we're going to have our current box, and then box, question mark. That's our question mark from before, null. And then we're going to have a list of boxes that we have already created. So private val boxes equals right. Import. And so now we're going to go back into our when we overrode our onTouch event, and we're going to go into our actions, right? So now we're going to have to basically think about what we're doing during each part of the program, right? So when we press down, that means we're making a new box, right? So we're going to have to reset our the drawing state of our current box. So box current, and then also boxes dot add it, right? So pretty straightforward. Into the next one. So when we are moving, we have to update our box for that specific point, right? So we have our we're going to make this update current box further down in the function, because we're going to be using this a little bit. So don't be confused when I write update current box. I'll explain that later. Update current box with our current. And that's going to be red for now. Again, don't worry about it. Action up. Same thing. So when our when we pull up, that means we're done with our current box, right? So we now have to set our current box to null. And then for cancel, we're just going to cancel that box as well. and we're not going to update it because it's been canceled. Okay. So now we're going to get onto that function we had before, right? So private function, update current box, right? And that's going to take in our parameter point f, right? Scroll through. Right. So we're going to have our current box, right? And we're going to set our end equal to current and invalidate. So basically, anytime an action down or motion event is received, we're going to set current box to be a new box with its origin at that location. And as the finger is moving around the screen, right, you're going to update current box dot end. And when it's canceled or when the user's finger leaves, you're going to update the current box with that final location where you pulled off, and we're going to null it out and end our draw motion. We're going to override a view function. It's going to be called protected fun on draw, which takes in a canvas parameter. So basically, we're going to make it so in response to action move in on touch event, right, we're going to make the box drawing view invalid again, which will redraw itself and show the new view, right? So this canvas parameter, canvas and paint are the two main drawing classes in Android. And so the canvas class is going to have all the operations you need. So whether you want to draw like a line or a circle, and then the paint class is going to determine how these operations are done. So the functions you call on paint specify like characteristics, like whether the shapes are filled, what the font text is, and just things like that. So that's how they kind of work together. So in box drawing view, we're going to make two paint objects when box drawing view is initialized, right? So at the top, underneath, over here, we're going to make another private val. And this is basically just telling it which color to use. I believe this is the color of the box. So like as you draw it on the screen, it's going to be a certain color. And then the next we're going to make the box background, right? And that'll be a slightly different color. So, .2 int. Import, right, and we're going to do this again, basically the same process except the background. Right, and I'm going to change this number here, which is just telling it which color to use. FE0. Right. So next, that's pretty straightforward. You have your background paint to fill the canvas for the backdrop, right? The next is we're going to override our that onDraw function that I mentioned earlier, right? So this is in our box drawing view as well. So override function onDraw. So we're going to have it fill the background, right, using Canvas. And then this is the act of like actually drawing each box using those coordinates from our data class, right? Our box.height. So we're using our box.left, all the things we calculated in that data class. We're going to be putting in here box.top. And our box paint. I'm going to import Canvas. And right, and we're gonna add in our next parameter, box.right, and now that should draw. That function is basically just gonna draw our box. So we're pretty much done. It was pretty easy. So what we're gonna do is stop this and run again, and we should be done, hopefully. So as you can see, we have our background color. I click and I draw, and nothing happened. Right, so little error. Basically, we forgot to set our current box equal to box current dot also. A little error, but messes up the whole thing. So try again. Now hopefully we'll be done. All right, so load it in. We got our background and click, and we have our box. Nice, and I can do it again. You can overlap, and pretty much the same thing. So we're all done. So thank you for sticking with me.